What a stark coincidence that the Forbes Rich List and the Global Hunger Index were both released over the past week. So close to each other that some might even smell a conspiracy. But the lists are out there, depicting two sets of Indians living in the same country at the same time and yet in seemingly different worlds. First, India's rich list. On top of the list, no surprise, is Mukesh Ambani with a net worth of $92 billion. At second place, Gautam Adani with $68 billion. Relegated to second place, mostly thanks to the Hindenburg research reports. At third place, Shiv Nadar of HCL, $29.3 billion. Fourth, Savitri Jindal of the OP Jindal Group, $24 billion. She is the only woman in the top 10. At fifth place is Radhakishan Damani of Avenue Supermarts, $23 billion. At number 6 is Cyrus Poonawalla of the Serum Institute, $20.7 billion. The Hinduja family is 7th with $20 billion. At number 8 is Dilip Shangvi of Sun Pharma, $19 billion. Number 9 is Kumar Birla of the Aditya Birla Group, $17.5 billion. And at 10th place is the Shapur Mistry family of the Shapurji Palonji Group with $16.9 billion. Before we could soak all those wealth numbers in, came the Global Hunger Index or GHI, in which India is placed at a lowly 111th place out of 125 countries. Worse, we are behind most of our neighbors, barring Afghanistan. At 60th place is Sri Lanka, 69 is Nepal, 81 is Bangladesh, 102 Pakistan, we are at 111th place, and Afghanistan at 114th out of 125 countries. The government has not accepted the rating and has said it is a flawed measure of hunger and does not reflect India's true position. And the Women and Child Development Ministry said the index suffers from serious methodological issues and shows a malified intent. By the way, the GHI is calculated on the 4 broad parameters of undernourishment, child stunting, child wasting, and child mortality. India is particularly poor on the child wasting score, which is a measure of children's weights relative to their heights. India is not alone, neither in inequality nor in undernourishment. Both inequality and undernourishment are global phenomena, and since 2017, the number of undernourished across the world has grown from 572 million to 735 million. In fact, the wealth ownership patterns in India and the world are near identical. An Oxfam International report earlier this year showed the richest 1% in India own more than 40% of the country's wealth, while the bottom 50% own only about 3% of the country's wealth. For the global picture, in the world, the top 1% own more than 50% of the world's wealth, while the bottom 50% own only 0.75%. What makes India's case different and shocking is that millions of Indians are going hungry at a time when the country is seemingly flexing its economic and geopolitical muscles. Hosting the G20, a rising stock market, being the fastest growing major economy, and landing a spacecraft on the moon. Another paradox is having undernourished millions in a country which is self-sufficient in food production and even exports surplus agricultural produce. But there's another side to India's agri-sector achievements. India is employing far too many people in agriculture. The farm sector employs about 50% of the country's workforce, but contributes only about 18% to the GDP. Naturally, there is significant impoverishment and numerous suicides in the farm sector. So what would be the action points to crack the undernourishment riddle? 2 focus areas ought to be higher investment in education and weaning people away from agriculture. Please add your thoughts in the comment box below. The world is going through a polycrisis. Climate change, plus conflicts, plus economic shocks, plus the global pandemic, plus the Russia-Ukraine war. To that, we could add the local issue of Manipur and the international issue of the Israel-Palestine face-off, each of which is adding more people to the impoverished and hungry list. We cannot miss the irony though. This year, our total food grain production is likely to cross 330 million tons, an all-time high. Imagine having millions of undernourished at the same time that we have millions of tons of food grain. Viewed in a different perspective, our food stock buildup may be reflective of a shortage of purchasing power. For a country whose granaries are full of food grain, hunger must have to do with a shortage of purchasing power. Whatever, we must address our disproportionate deployment of people in agriculture. May those on the rich list continue to create jobs, much needed jobs in the private sector, and may there be fewer people on the farm. This episode of Geometric View salutes Wali Rahmani, only 25 years old, who's crowdfunding a school building for the underprivileged in Bengal. Rahmani's plan was to build an English medium school for the underprivileged children in South 24 Parganas, Bengal. The school currently runs out of rented premises and has 300 students, but with 1,500 students waiting for admission. Tired of begging for funds, Rahmani took to the crowdfunding route, putting out an appeal video which went viral. Rahmani's concept was to use funds from the rich to build a school for the poor. He aimed to raise 100 million rupees for the school building and received 60 million rupees in the first 6 days alone. What better way to build meaningful bridges between India's rich and the undernourished?